Friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ears. We come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. We are gathered today to do exactly the opposite. So I say to you, friends, Californians, and companions on the journey, we come here today not to bury Kathleen, but to celebrate her. So I'm going to make just two main points in my homily this morning. And the first one call it a bit a brief theory of life. And the second will be lessons I learned from Kathleen. But in case you think you're getting off lightly, there's going to be 5 main points in the second one. I'm going to talk about Kathleen and me, Kathleen and my family, Kathleen and the Catholic Church, Kathleen and the companions on the journey, and Kathleen and the human family. So the first one, a brief theory of life. I'm sure as a little child, did you have the practice of writing to Santa Claus a few days before Christmas? And you pour out your guts to him and you tell him exactly what you want. And then you come down on Christmas morning and lo and behold, exactly what you wrote for is under the tree. And you can't believe your luck. You know now that Santa Claus is real and you got precisely what you asked for. That's an explanation of karma. That's exactly what karma is. Karma is the realization that the hand you were dealt is precisely the hand you planned for. But there are 2 parts to karma. There's fate and there's destiny. And these 2 words are often used as synonyms, and they're very different. Fate is the hand you planned and you started life with. And destiny is a result of how you played that hand, so what it looks like at the end of your life. And there are many, many levels to this notion of karma. There's individual karma. You have an individual fate, hands you were given, and a destiny you're meant to achieve. And every group has karma. Every culture, every community has karma. So it's kind of a group karma, and there's a fate attached to that. There's a plan as we come in as a group, and there's a destiny for us towards the end. And then there's what's sometimes called polykarma. It's the karma for the entire human species. It's the contract we have where we come in together and we start off with a hand and we finish up with a hand at the end of every incarnation. So it is very, very important to realize that none of us comes in as individuals. Every single contract is intertwined with every other contract. And to the extent that I don't fulfill my contract, I'm holding others back as well. I'm holding the whole human family back. And so in some senses, there's a fate, if I'm not playing my cards right, that the destination or the destiny is not fulfilled, and therefore the fate next time round is compromised. If I haven't done what I've come in to do this time, it means that next time round, I'm kind of playing catch up. And the whole group is playing catch up, and the whole human family is playing catch up. And in this process, it seems to me that there are 3 kinds of people that we encounter. There are the sleepers, people who have forgotten completely why they're here. And very, very often, they're the complainers. They're upset about the hand they have, and therefore they play it badly, and then they affect everybody else as well. They affect our fate next time round, and they affect our destiny at the end of this lifetime. And then secondly, there are the people who are awake, and they know that the hand they were given at birth is the hand they actually planned for, and like the child on Christmas morning, they're delighted to play this hand to the best possible way. And then the third group are called the town criers. And these are the people who attempt to wake up the rest of us. Kathleen Lyons was a town crier. She spent her entire lifetime trying to wake up the communities in which she found herself. So that's my first point this morning. So now I'm going to talk about lessons I learned from Kathleen in 5 subsections. So lessons I learned for her as an individual. I would have to say that in my 70 years on the planet, that there were only 3 women in my life who put the fear of God in me. And the first one was my mother. And the second one was a nun I met in Africa called Sister Augustine. She was a huge, big woman. And she ran a big hospital in a mission called El Dama Ravine. She was the matron of the hospital. And at one stage, I was admitted to the hospital with typhoid. And after 2 weeks under her care, I was fed up of hospital life, so I discharged myself. And I didn't have transport because I'd been in the hospital, so I thumbed the lift and I got on the back of a big, big truck, and the cab was full, so I'm standing up in the back of the truck, barreling along this dirty red Murram road, to freedom, and all of a sudden a car comes behind us and cuts us off, and Augustine jumps out, and to the amazement of the whole group, orders me back off the back of the truck and back into the car. And brought me back to the hospital. And the third woman who put the fear of God in me was Kathleen Lyons. And I met her way, way back, 1997, 29 years ago, at St. Anne's. And she was very, very involved in the parish there. And she and I got to be really, really, really good friends over the years. And so at one stage, there was a woman in our community who moved out of the area finally, but she was here for years and years, and she was very, very psychic. Some of you may know her, Joan Gunton, very psychic, great, great medium. So Joan took me aside one time after seeing how Kathleen and myself interacted over a period of years, and she said, "You realize, of course, that you and Kathleen were a husband and wife in a previous incarnation?" And I didn't have the courage to ask her which of us was the husband and which was the wife. We had many, many adventures together. She shared some really, really deep stuff. Kathleen was a really deeply mystical woman, even as a little girl. She shared stories about mystical experiences that she had when she was in high school. And a very powerful one about a visit to Mexico that I'll talk about a little bit later. But I put Kathleen's life in danger several times. And the most atrocious was in 1995, when the Diocese of San Jose decided that they no longer needed my services. I had to look around for an apartment in the area. So I found an apartment in Menlo Park, number 225 Waverley Street, apartment number 4. And it was an upstairs apartment. And the entrance to it was a very, very narrow stairway and very, very steep. And then the door was on the left-hand side. So Kathleen and I went shopping for furniture. It was unfurnished. So she took me to all the thrift shops around. And we bought this huge, big, long sofa. It was almost as long as that bench. It was at least 8 feet long. So we're trying to get up the stairs. We put on I had an old car. I still remember it. It was a Mazda 323, registration 1RJP 110. We put it up on top of the car, and we'd tied through the windows, the front windows and the back windows, and we drive to Menlo Park. We get it off, and we're trying to take it up the steps. And no matter what we try to do, there is no way we can angle it in through the door on the side. So we have to take it back down the steps again, just the two of us, around the front of the building, down a side alleyway, and around the back. Now, there was an outside veranda in this apartment with sliding doors. So genius that I am, I figured we'd easily get it through the sliding doors. Problem is, it's up about 12 feet. So I source a ladder someplace, I prop the ladder up, and the two of us are trying to push this 8-foot-long sofa up along the ladder. So I get up to a piece, and I said to Kathleen, "Hold it there." And I run around to the front, up the stairs, into the apartment, out through the back door, and I got to grab it. And Kathleen is below, and she's almost decapitated. Her face has gone purple. It's sitting right on her throat down there. I nearly killed her. So she got her own back, I can tell you. And I still remember that sofa cost me $75. So it was top of the line quality. So we had many, many, many great exchanges, she and I. And then when my family came to visit, Kathleen really befriended them. Seamus and his wife Jackie came several times, and Pádraig came and his wife came, and Deirdre, my sister, and her husband came. And at that stage, I had moved up to Healdsburg, so I didn't have a place down here. Kathleen would entertain them and offer them hospitality. And particularly, she and my mother were really, really, really close. My mother loved nothing better than to visit thrift shops and bargain about the prices. So on one occasion, the two of them went shopping someplace, I don't know where it was, and they came home and they had brought me a pink cushion, a thing about this size, bright pink cushion, disgusting looking thing. And I said to Peg, "What's that for?" She said, that's a gift for you. I said, "You can take it with you." I don't want it. She insisted, put it on the sofa. So when she had left after a month, I took it back to the same shop and I donated it back to them. A year later, Peg came out, went shopping with Kathleen Lyons, and found a pink cushion. And Peg says, "I found a companion for your cushion." And Kathleen is grinning in the background. Kathleen has orchestrated this. So when my mother had gone home at that occasion, I gave the pink cushion a Christian burial. But on one occasion, they used to do a tour all up and down the peninsula, visiting all the thrift shops, Salvation Army, Goodwill, whatever. They were in some place in San Carlos, and my mother, Peg, was looking at a mug which was valued at 75 cents. And she felt that this, she could get them down to 50 cents at least. So she's examining this mug, and she wore glasses, but to read, she'd take the glasses off. So she had the glasses up, and she's trying to read, where was this manufactured? So she'd be able to argue with the guy to get the price down. And she couldn't quite read it, so she steps outside the shop into the sunlight to try to read it, and she's immediately arrested by the security guy. And she's accused of shoplifting. Kathleen runs out with her, and she ripped the guy a new one. How dare you treat my guest like this? This is a lady from Ireland, she's my guest, and you're treating her like this. So finally, the manager came over and gave her a gift to the mug. She got it for nothing. Not even 50 cents. Okay. She brought that home with her. I insisted. So what was Kathleen's relationship to the Catholic Church? She served the Catholic Church for many, many, many years in many parishes in this area, in a variety of jobs. She was a secretary at St. Anne's for several years with Jean Boyle. She played music there. She was a guitar player. And I wasn't the first Catholic priest that she cut down to size. At one stage, she was made the housekeeper / cook in Sacred Heart Church in Saratoga. And the pastor at the time was a Monsignor. And so Kathleen is there about 4 or 5 days, and she goes out grocery shopping, and she comes home, opens up the trunk, and there's like 10 bags of shopping inside in the back. And just then, the Monsignor is coming out to play golf. He got his golf bag with him, opens the trunk of his car, throws the golf clubs in, closes it down, and is about to take off. And Kathleen says to him, "You there, I'm not a slave. Take these bags into the kitchen." And from then on, he knew who was boss at Sacred Heart Parish. She had an extraordinary ability to confront any lack of integrity wherever she found it. She was like Ralph Nader on steroids when she found anything, where she felt there was a lack of integrity. So one of the mystical experiences she shared with me was, as a young woman in her 20s, so now we're talking about, the 1940s. She was born in 1922. She went to Mexico on a visit, and she was in the cathedral in Mexico City, and she had this really, really powerful vision where the whole floor of the church disappeared, and everything just was falling into this abyss. And the time she shared this with me, she was saying, I realized at that stage that something deadly was about to befall the Catholic Church. Now, she was 30 years prescient. And so when the great crisis, pedophilia and stuff like that started to hit it, she said to me, now I know what my vision was about. So she had some really, really powerful mystical experiences. What was her relationship with the COJ? On June the 1st, 1997, when COJ was born, Kathleen was both midwife and doula to the process. And over the course of many, many years, she stepped up to the plate again and again and again. Because Kathleen realized that a ministry, or to be a minister, is not to be handpicked by some member of the hierarchy and elevated from just being a mere pleb, the anonymity of the masses, to being in a position of privilege or power. Kathleen realized that a ministry is, there's a need in a community, there's somebody who has the requisite gifts to address that need, they volunteer to address it, and they're commissioned by the group to act in that capacity on their stead. And again and again and again, all of you know the ways in which she stepped up to the plate and, created ministries that were needed at the time as we were little infants and as we were teenagers in our journey. So again and again and again, she was the lifeblood and the creative genius behind the evolution of Companions on the Journey. And finally, Kathleen and the world. She was an extraordinary, multidimensional, multicultural person. In her 80s, she decided she would learn belly dancing. She wanted to honor the Middle Eastern traditions, and she learned belly dancing in her 80s. She was also in her 80s when she decided she was going to go back to her roots in Ireland. Her people were from a small little island off the coast of Ireland called Cape Clear, where Gaelic is still the mother tongue. And she went back and spent an entire summer holidays learning Irish back in Cape Clear. So she had this extraordinary ability to dip into many, many cultures. At some stage, shortly after the murder of the 6 Jesuits in El Salvador, Kathleen went with a group down to El Salvador to find out precisely what American foreign policy was doing to cripple that country. And she came back and she began talking about it, and she really upset a whole bunch of people at St. Anne's at the time because she was calling a spade a spade. You know very well that she was the founder of Women in Black, who stood on university. Was the university in Ramona or Emerson? Where was it? Emerson. Rita, you were with her all the time. She would stand there every Friday for an hour in the boiling heat, silent. Now, it wasn't that the standing for an hour in the heat was so difficult for her. It was standing for an hour in the heat, silent, that was difficult for her. But she did it anyway. And so we have a saying, and I said to her many, many times, she was so fiercely independent. I kept saying, Kathleen, when you die and we're trying to put you into the casket, you'll insist on closing the cover yourself. So we have a saying in Gaelic. We say when somebody of that calibre dies, we say, Ní bheidh a lehéids ann a ríist. The likes of her will never be in it again.